that setback, take into consideration the curvature of that road. So you have to maintain, in that setback all the way. So you may have to start at 8 foot. That's something your fence people are gonna have to figure out, okay, to be within the variance. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So what's the minimum distance from the sidewalk to the fence?
20 feet,
20 feet.
20. Correct?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
That's what I just voted for, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm like, that's what I voted for.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, I gotta find my agenda.
It's under all the papers.
All right, oh, good. Number 2, fence variance. Jay Sargent, 824 Bonnie Lane. So we have a revised variance request from the last meeting. At the last meeting, and the board approved the 7-foot privacy fence along the rear of the property line. And what is the change on the other fence that you were talking about?
So we reduced it from 5 feet away from the sidewalk to 6 feet away from the sidewalk for visibility, as we understood it, 30 foot from the curb. Obviously, based on what we just heard, it's supposed to be 30 feet from the sidewalk, which we had also completely misunderstood.
So according to this picture, how far off your house is that from the side? Sorry, this front picture. How far is that front extending out?
Oh, we have that in the diagram.
Oh, yeah. So you're asking how?
It would be 6 feet from the front of the house.
Yes, it would be 6 feet from the front of it, from all of the
So-
house.
No. Like, how far out towards the sidewalk is it coming?
Towards the
It
sidewalk.
would be 6 feet in from the sidewalk, so. that
So
means
from the
10 feet
house.
From the house.
24 from the house? Okay.
Correct. So if you need any additional numbers, we do have per square foot a little diagram here on this page.
The one that's, it's to scale.
And there should be little boxes underneath that
Oh, right here.
point to what it
Okay.
is. It says how big it would be.
How far back from the front of the house is it?
6 feet.
6 feet.
Okay, so that's 6 feet.
And those pictures that you see with the actual fence there are not real. Those
Yeah,
are
it's
doctored
just
photos.
Photoshop.
That, just so no
I was like, wow, that's really awesome. We've already
I
put the
figured
fence
it
up.
would be easier to show pictures, so that way everyone has a general understanding as opposed to what it was last time where we were trying to throw out words and not understanding what was.
Right.
No, yeah.
I'm like, where are we looking at? No, that back fence looks really good.
Can I ask what the need to be so close to the sidewalk is? Why 5, why 6 feet?
One of the main reasons we're looking into getting this fence, and specifically in that location, is because within the last year or so, there was an individual who crashed their vehicle across the street, well,
In the median.
in the median
In the
into
light.
the light post. The light post was essentially removed and replaced. If it wasn't for that light post, that car could have hit our home. And if we do not have a buffer, we do not have anything that will stop us from getting a destroyed
A
living
cedar
room, destroyed
fence is
home,
not
or
gonna stop
destroyed
a car.
car. It'll help.
It'll help reduce fatality is the best we can hope for, honestly.
That's one of the
That's why the
biggest reasons.
distance, because it would impede the speed of the moving vehicle.
That's the only reason,
That's the only reason for the distance.
not to gain internal space. Okay.
On the west side of the house, there's no sidewalk now, is that correct?
There is.
There is, it's hidden by the
It's
little,
hidden by the little cliff.
you can take the clip off.
Yeah,
but
I just pulled
There
mine
is
out.
a sidewalk going all the way down.
On the left hand side.
I believe the overhead Google Maps picture above the graph should have the sidewalk.
The survey shows it
It's
too.
there,
Kinda
but
hard
it's hard to
it in the
see.
tree. And also that middle tree has been removed as the other two. I'm not sure when they're scheduled to be removed, but they will be because of the life cycle of the tree subdivision. And obviously we understand there's not necessarily a set date for replanting.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
can't
can
hear
you
you.
speak? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
That microphone doesn't work real well, so he's got to kind of project a little
I'm
bit for
terribly
us.
sorry about
You're
that.
fine, you're fine.
Yeah, so on the diagram, this one, where it shows kind of the graph and everything, the middle tree has been removed, so that there's no barrier there. And the front and back ones on the west side along that parkway, I understand are also scheduled to be removed or will be removed. So,
Those trees in the parkway?
yes.
Can they remove a tree in the parkway on their own?
No, the village.
No, the
is
village
doing
has
that.
been, the
Because-
trees are nearing their life cycles end, and some trees are being removed. Currently, we have one that has been removed, so that's an additional item that we cannot rely on for night security if anyone decides to be drinking at night or what have you.
You could plant new trees in there, right?
I don't know if we're allowed to.
Is that along Kids on Wilmington Road?
No.
No, it's on
No,
the,
it's
on the west side of the house.
West side of it, okay.
Is your house brick?
It is half brick veneer, half vinyl siding.
I don't think we can grant a variance based on somebody's fear that somebody's going to drive 75 feet across the yard and get their house.
Right.
I mean, that's a stretch at best. And I would plant some trees, that would be a barrier. I mean, this fence is a tissue paper barrier. A car at 70 miles an hour, a tree is a,
At the end of the day, the trees that have been in the area that we've had to remove, at least in our backyard, because they have been nothing but an aesthetic nightmare. I don't think they've been dying, they just looked terrible. You could see what they were back in the day from the last picture.
And in the last picture, you can kind of see how
They were overgrown, there was weeds, fungus, all sorts of disgusting things. We're having critters, spiders, all that stuff.
Now, instead of the 6 feet off, would it be possible to do the 20 feet off and go closer to your house?
Well, right now, the build line right now is 30 feet from it.
Right.
So they're saying
No,
20
I
feet
see what
off.
they're saying, is giving us the 10 feet on the side. I would-
So it won't be as, that front fence isn't as long across, it'd be a lot
Right.
shorter.
I mean, in the interest of having something there, yes, that would be agreeable, yes. So there's no.
Right. To be just a little greedy, maybe a little bit, would it be possible for a 12? So half of what we were expecting for a
Is it going off the front of it?
Yes, and that is permitted by the ordinance. That's what we have.
It's set, here's the front of the house, and it's set 6 feet back off the house.
6 foot out.
And then it's over, and it's 6 feet from the sidewalk right now, the way they have it. So I'm suggesting they pull it in so it's not so close to the sidewalk.
So currently, the
It's
fence
still
that we're
gonna-
proposing is 24 feet.
Right.
From the side of the house towards the sidewalk. I would say half of that, so it'd be 12. Still coming from the side of the house. And then going south up until the fence in the backyard.
I think out of fairness to the other resident, I'll give you 10, but not 12.
I prefer to see it come off the back corner and straight back. I mean, looking at it from an aesthetic viewpoint, I mean, these corner houses with these big fences is just,
But it's still, you would, it'd be, instead of way over here, it would be like right here.
I know, no, it's just, these
And
fences
then
that
you'd
just
still
block.
have all that grass, that would be all grass.
It should be all grass all the way to the back of the, well, that's the side,
That's the back.
the back, yeah, but this needs to be going over to here. There's no reason to have it stuck out there like that. It should come off right there.
That's what you're saying.
I think we have to look at it, what if everybody did that? You know, it would be, quite frankly, I don't think the fear of being crashed into warrants.
Again, that was just one of our things.
right, so is there any type of motion to be made?
Make a motion to deny as presented.
Is there a second? Where was the second?
Second.
Motion by trustee Jones, seconded by trustee March to deny the variance as presented.
Jones.
Yes.
March.
Yes. Yes.
Marevka.
As presented, as there, we're not changing anything.
Correct.
Then yes, I agree.
Parker.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes, as presented.
Yes.
So, same advice,
Okay.
go back to the drawing board if you want to come back, with a different proposal. We can go through the process again. If one of the trustees is willing to make some kind of a motion, yes. That's kind of where we're at on that.
I would make a motion that they come off the back corner of the house, straight back.
As we did on the last, as was,
Not sticking it out farther, just straight off
Straight
the
off the
corner,
back.
straight back.
Okay.
They wouldn't need a variance.
so that's not a
At
variance.
that
then.
point,
There's no
that's
variance.
variance, that's what we had.
Then I motion 20 feet
Wait. Do we have,
from the sidewalk.
was
Oh, that was a
that,
motion.
No,
was
that-
that a real
No,
motion?
it can't be because it's not a variance.
I make a motion that we stick with the variance.
Okay, so that's done. So trustee Marevka, just, okay. So your motion
But
is,
his. My motion is to have it 20 feet off the sidewalk, so then it's only 10 feet from their house.
so your motion is a 10-foot variance. Is that correct?
The front. Exactly how
20.
they have it. They have
10
6
foot
feet
variance.
from the front. Exactly that, except for instead of 24 feet fence, it's going to be a 10-foot fence.
So
it's 20 feet from the sidewalk.
she's
coming in 20, in other words,
A
instead of a
10-foot.
30-foot setback.
10-foot variance.
20.
20-foot setback.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
I understand what you're,
From the side.
From the sidewalk. So
No. I mean, starting at the front of the house? Was that?
Starting-
From where they have it. They have it 6
Okay.
feet from the
Okay.
front.
yeah, which they can do.
So is there a second to that motion?
I'll make the motion second.
Second. So motion by trustee Marevka, seconded by trustee Ham.
Okay.
Everybody understand the motion?
Can you review that one more?
Sure. So it's a 20-foot setback from the sidewalk.
On
So
the
it's,
meadow
so it's a
side.
10, so on the meadow side, so it's a 10-foot variance.
Okay.
And
Okay.
because they're far enough from the other street to the north, the northern boundary of that fence doesn't have to move forward, north or south.
Correct.
Okay. I got it.
Okay? So the motion by trustee Marevka, seconded by trustee Ham.
Marevka.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Bowden.
No.
Parker.
No.
March.
No.
Jones.
No.
So that motion fails.
Is that no?
No. 4-2, that motion is defeated. Now we're back to, okay? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just put my shoes.
Oh, that's
Oh
a
my God.
That's over here. I gotta talk about it.
Did you bring your tools?
All right, so item C, ordinances. An ordinance granting a fence variance. If I talk funny, I just broke my tooth. So, my tooth just broke. I'll be calling Dr. March here shortly. An ordinance granting a fence variance for certain property located at 824 Bonnie Lane, Sergeant. This is from the last meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so at the last meeting, the board granted a 7-foot privacy fence in the rear yard with the utility box outside the fence and denied the variance for the 6-foot privacy fence to be installed on the west side of the lot, on the front wall of the residence to the rear property line. So this is ordinance number 19-08. So this is just the ordinance to ratify the approval of this from the last board meeting.
Do you need a motion? or-
Yes, I do, please.
I will motion that.
Second?
Second.
Motion by trustee Bowden, seconded by trustee Jones to approve ordinance number 19-08.
Bowden.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
March.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Number 2, an ordinance granting a fence variance for certain property located at 108 East Crawford Street, Leclerc, allowing a temporary landscape accessory fence to replace existing hedgerow at the north and northwest corner of the property not to exceed 30 inches in height and not less than 15 inches from the sidewalk. The ordinance actually reads 15 foot, so you have to correct that in the
15
ordinance.
inches, just change it to feet.
No, inches is correct.
Oh, what's in the ordinance?
The ordinance says 15 feet,
That was me, I typed it feet.
so that should read 15 inches in the ordinance.
Right, and you can change that
Yes.
right now.
So this would be ordinance number 19-09.
So moved.
Second?
Need some water?
Second.
I'll make it.
Motion by trustee March, seconded by trustee Marevka.
March.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Item 3, an ordinance granting a fence variance for certain property located at 541 Oak Maze, allowing to replace, maintain the parallel fence currently constructed on the east side of the property and denying the variance to move and extend the existing fence on the west side of the property 10 feet to the west. This is ordinance number 19-10. Motion?
I'll motion it.
Second?
Second.
Motion by trustee Bowden, seconded by trustee Parker.
Bowden.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
March.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Number 4, approval of proposed annual appropriations ordinance for the Village of Peatone for the fiscal year beginning April the 1st, 2019, and ending March 31st, 2020. Earlier this evening, at 6:30, we held a public hearing for public comment on the appropriations ordinance. There was no public comment at that time. Any questions or discussion from the board? So this would be ordinance number 19-11.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee March, seconded by trustee Jones to adopt ordinance number 19-011.
March.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Item D, text amendment. Petitioner, Village of Peatone, request a zoning code text amendment in the B1 Retail Business District to add amend the language as it pertains to dwellings in conjunction with retail. Amy, do you want to take that one?
Sure, so this was presented to the Plan Commission, and you have a finding of facts in your packet. You have the ordinance that was added to your table later on. So we took a look at the zoning code based on the B1 zoning district, and looked at that zoning district and dwelling units being allowed on the first floor. In the zoning code currently, they were only allowed on the second floor of that business district. So we had been approached by a business, and they had a structure that was conducive to a business and a residential unit on one floor, and wasn't allowable by the code. So we took a look at the code and thought village-wide, in a B1, this could be open us up to allow for some business opportunities. So rewrote the code with some restrictions so that we would not be mixing residential and business where not appropriate. So added some regulations to it, and also it needs to be a special use permit. So it has to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission if that is going to be something that a B1 would request.
This is Dr. Lowry's building we're talking about.
Yes.
Correct.
But this text amendment would apply to any one if appropriate. And then it would have to apply for a SUP.
So, just a point of clarification?
Yes.
So, the old Hoop Hardware store,
Mm-hmm.
somebody could move in and make that a residence. Is that correct?
With a special use permit, right? Or no? Are we allowed?
Well, yes, but it would, let me.
Still have to have business.
There's a couple of things I'll just
Yeah,
comment,
go ahead.
because we
Yeah.
looked at this pretty carefully.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So I'm just trying to
there,
wrap my head around
there,
all the possibilities.
yeah,
Yeah.
there can be no display on the exterior to indicate that it's being used for anything other than a dwelling.
But it
Okay?
also isn't it a single-story building?
Yes, a single-story
Okay.
building.
Yeah.
The business use has got to be deemed compatible with the dwelling use. No patrons of the business are allowed on the premises except between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. And each one is a special use. So, it would not, in certain areas, I think this is a fairly unique piece of property, number one.
Yeah.
In certain areas, like downtown, the Main Street, you're not gonna, it just isn't gonna be compatible.
I don't even know if that's a bad thing. I just
Right,
tried to wrap my head
but
around
this
it.
doesn't affect that because this is specifically for single-story buildings
Right.
in a B1.
But we did.
Well, on the first floor, no, it could be a two-story building. Because we allow residents on the second floor now.
Right.
In a B1. So if you want to have a residential unit on the first floor
Well, okay,
in a B1.
I'm just reading the findings of fact, and one of the questions in the findings of facts is, will the proposed text amendment create any non-conforming uses? If so, what kind? And it says no, the text amendment would allow for the single-story residential use in the B1 category under certain parameters. Okay,
Yeah.
I just reread it again. Okay.
Yeah, each one is going to have to be looked at P and Z. Like, you're not going to allow, well, that would be up to them. But certainly, this is a residential unit that used to have the doctor's office in it. The particular business is embroidery, right?
Mhm.
And they're going to sew stuff in the room. I think if it was some other type of business, if there was going to be customers coming in and out of there other than those hours, if you're going to put signage outside, then, it would be denied, essentially. You have to, it would have to fit. I would believe that there are not very many properties in B1 where this is gonna work. That's what I would think, saying offhand.
But you couldn't have residential living in a vacant B1 business
Building.
building.
No.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
No, you wouldn't, no, it's
So
when
it's-
there's a business use, you can't have purely residential either. in a
But
B1.
somebody could say, okay, we're going to make this downstairs, we're going to cut it into 2 or 3 apartments, and the upstairs is going to be business, living downstairs, but never develop the upstairs.
Well, then
Okay, it's
they-
B1, but we can't find a tenant. So it's for rent, but
Would they have to change?
you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, there wouldn't be a special use granted until somebody wanted to reside.
Because somebody would be wanting to reside, but not have a business upstairs. See what I'm saying?
Oh, well,
But they would
okay.
have to, though.
Yeah.
They
We
wouldn't
wouldn't
grant
gr-
them
we
the
wouldn't
special
grant that.
use.
No, not number one, and besides, it's a B1 district, so it's primarily business.
So are we able to
So
limit it
it's-
to this one property?
So each,
We're not.
Each one, well, not exactly, but yet, only.
Each application would
would
be
have to be,
reviewed
yeah.
each
by P&Z
application has to be reviewed.
and by the village
But again,
board.
are we setting a precedent? Because so
You're just,
somebody
what
else is
this text amendment does, it allows this piece of property, this unique piece of property, to be business basically in the back and residential in the front. It's all one story, so it's not up and down. I mean, downtown in the B1, we have several pieces of property that are business on the first floor and residential on the second floor.
Which is permitted.
So, but the way, and I keep going back and rereading this one part of the findings of fact, it just says, this proposed text amendment will allow for the expansion of business opportunities with a residential component for small businesses that may fall in the B1 zoning district category, but not be a multi-story building. And that's what this text amendment basically is targeting, is a non-two-story, a single-story structure in the B1 that has a business component and a residential component attached to it. Like I said, that this building is the only building that I'm aware of in our B1 zoning that falls under this
Across from the
category.
Legion.
A white building?
Yeah, I mean,
Single story,
Yeah,
multi-unit.
I guess that's what I'm trying to wrap my head. If somebody opens a business and then decides, I want to build an apartment in here because it's going to be cheaper for me to live where I work.
then they would have to apply for a special
But
use.
if we grant this one, are we going to have to grant that one because we're setting a precedent that's acceptable?
We also have the owner of the business has to be the resident.
Right.
So it's not just for rental.
Right,
Right.
right.
Now, I have a question.
Just so you know.
If the business just didn't work out and they closed the business, would they have to sell it then, or could they continue living there with the business out?
Good.
Or would they have to get another business in there?
That's a good question. No, I think once it started that way and they were residing there and it was operating.
They would lose the special use.
Well, any change of use would lose the special use.
Okay.
Right.
Say that again?
Anytime you change the use, when a special use is granted, anytime you change the use of the property, the special use goes away.
We kind of had the same situation in the building across from the mill, where the heating and cooling place was. And they were granted the ability to run their business out of there. And that was in a residential district. But after their business closed, they could not sell that building to someone to operate a business out of.
Correct, because the special use is gone.
Right.
Any transfer of ownership, special use only it runs to the person that it's granted to. If there's a sale of the property or there's a change in the use, then there is no longer a special use.
Now,
Then it would just be a B1, would have to fit within a B1. Or they'd have to come in and ask for another special use.
Right, okay, that's what I was
can we
wondering.
limit
They
the
would have
use to what it is? I mean, today they want to be an embroidery shop, but if they got on the road 5 years and said, now we're sick of this, can they put any kind of business in there they want?
Well, anything that would fit within a B1, they're already zoned for.
So they would.
The special use is for the residential portion of it.
Right. Yeah, it's a zone B1.
So basically, they could put any kind of business they wanted in
As
there.
long as it fit into the B1 category.
Right.
Category, yeah.
And they could still live there.
Well, except they can't have customers there except between those hours, and they can have no external signage.
Yeah. I
So,
want
I
to
mean,
do
that
it, I
does
just don't
limit
want
it.
to open up Pandora's
Yeah,
box.
Right.
and I really don't think we're opening up any kind of Pandora's box. I think, we were looking for a way to make this possible. That building has sat vacant for quite a while. It was residential at one time in the front. That doctor's office was built kind of behind it after the fact, and then the house became a real estate, I think it was a real estate agent or
Insurance.
Insurance, that's what it was. So anyway, I think the residential portion of it fits very well because everything else on that block is residential. The business portion of it is behind it to the north, so it's off of that street of residential properties. And I think, we kind of talked quite a bit about how to get there, and I think this is a real good opportunity for us to get another business in town, make use of a building that's vacant. The people are going to live there, the owners are living there, they're going to maintain the property. I think it's a win-win.
And
It's a perfect application.
Yeah, it really is.
And I think when you say opening the Pandora's box, I think it would just have to be like, if somebody did want that white building over there, they would have to just come in and ask like.
Well, and they would have to have a plan,
Yeah.
and then we would look at it.
Those are my concerns.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, so this would be ordinance number 19-12, I believe. An ordinance amending Title 15, Chapter 157, Section 157 or .080 dwelling units. Dwelling units? That should be the dwelling units? Dwelling units of the Code of Peatone.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee March, seconded by trustee Jones. Oh, and, no, not yet. Okay, go ahead. Is there, no, yeah, and we also have to adopt the findings of fact, correct? Along with that? There were findings of fact.
Yes, you can certainly.
And attach the findings of fact to that.
Perfect timing. Okay, March.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Item E, special use permit petitioner T. Hilka? Sorry, are they here? No? Okay. 127 East Crawford Street is petitioned for a special use permit in the B1 Retail Business District for operating a business and a residential unit on the same floor. Amy?
So this is the owner of the embroidery business who would like to operate out of the old doctor's office, the previous doctor's office, I should say, not old. And they did apply for the special use permit, and the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it and unanimously made an approval recommendation to the board of trustees.
I move we accept the planning commission's findings and findings of
Fact
facts.
and approve the special use permit?
Yes.
I second it.
Okay. Motion by trustee March, seconded by trustee Marevka to approve the special use permit for 127 East Crawford and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission's findings of fact.
You do have an ordinance.
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance number.
Oh, there is an ordinance, I'm sorry, I didn't say that on there. I'm sorry, it's under ordinances,
Came in
yep.
tonight.
Yes, so this would be 19-13. These are all ordinances. Got lost on the second page.
March.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
And Bowden.
Item F, Mr. Patel, Bhagwati Properties 1 LLC, approval of the concept site plan, engineering concept site plan, and landscape plan for the truck travel center. Hello, Mr. Patel.
Good evening.
So this, Amy, you want to go ahead with this?
So Mr. Patel made a presentation before the Planning and Zoning Committee for his site plan and landscaping plan. So previously made a preliminary, submitted a preliminary site plan, and that was approved, unanimously approved for your recommendation. We brought that forth to you. What the Planning and Zoning Commission requested was
Here, we can
an
move that
actual
over.
concept plan and also a landscaping plan, which was not originally submitted. So it's in the very beginning stages, like no engineering has really been done, just some preliminary engineering. So
Yeah.
some tweaking had been done after the public hearing, and Mr. Suhas came back with a concept plan and a landscaping plan for review. And he made some changes based on the input that he received, and some of that input. Also, for your information, I did include the minutes. They're draft minutes from that meeting, this previous meeting at the Planning and Zoning, so you have an idea of what was talked about briefly and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you went from about 190 truck spaces to about 160.
From 217 to 160.
Okay, there you go, so
So it's
even,
almost like 60 parking less.
and the diesel pumps, the
And-
decreased.
Yeah, so basically, I slide this, we used to have 12 diesel lane here, so we cut down to 10. So that gain about 50 feet, because each lane is about 24 feet wide. And, we slide the whole thing this way and open up about, 46 feet setback, from this to the property to the north. And then we added the restaurant pad. The restaurant is about 7,000 square feet, the building, and then the hotel. And the total parking, we have 170 parkings, between these two spaces. And then everything slide this way, so that, we can have a heavy landscaping, and have some landscape buffer, as you can see in this drawing. So here, this is how, we're gonna, get the landscaping, to the house to the north, and then by the restaurant and the hotel.
And we're still looking at a possible Holiday Inn Express, correct?
Has the revised site plan gone through planning and zoning?
Yes,
And they approved it?
They
yes,
approved, yes.
yes,
So they-
unanimously.
They've approved the final, where the bushes are and the trees and the...
Well, that has to go back to them.
To them.
That is a condition of the approval of this preliminary landscape plan, of the concept plan and landscape plan, is that they want the final landscape plan to come back through.
Then it'll come back to us after that.
Planning and
Correct.
zoning. But final landscape can't really come through until final engineering comes through, so.
It'll be one of the last things.
It'll be after things get well underway, and if they get well underway, I don't want to say when, but, things will get tweaked and moved and adjusted possibly, so landscaping will be one of the last things. But that was the concern of the Plan Commission, you have a copy of the landscape plan, and it's as detailed as can probably be at this point. It shows a berm by the north property for buffering and some plantings, but not quite enough detail. So
So-
final will come.
Can you or Jim kind of give us what the steps are going forward from here? I mean, this is all still a lot of preliminary stuff. I mean, when do we start seeing?
So really, I think
stuff?
at the next committee of the whole, we'll have a discussion about the annexation agreement. I think we're looking at the first meeting in July, more than likely to hold a public hearing on the annexation agreement.
Yeah, and I can answer that. The key, of course, is the annexation agreement, because that's going to set the obligations of the parties in terms of the more fundamental points, and some of the more costly points, the road, those kinds of things. And that annexation agreement has to come before the board for approval, subsequent to a public hearing on the annexation agreement. And as soon as it's ready to be viewed by the public, as soon as it's finished, and we can publish notice of the annexation, on the public hearing on the annexation agreement for this project. That annexation agreement needs to be able to be looked at by anybody that would want to look at it before the public hearing. And we have a 15-day publication time limit, 15 days before the meeting of the board. So that needs to be ready, and public notice needs to go out. If you're going to do it the first meeting of July, whatever date that.
11th, I believe.
Yes, first meeting in July would be the 8th, right?
Oh, it would be, yes.
The 8th, so back up 15 days from the 8th, and that would be the latest that the agreement needs to be done and notice needs to be published. We probably have to do it a little sooner than that to hit the newspaper.
Right.
And that would be the next step.
And there's been, significant time spent by staff and by legal and
Oh, yeah, we've been
engineers and
We're
everything.
still working on it, right?
And Mr. Patel and his people too, so,
So once the annexation agreement, let's say that gets approved,
Uh-huh.
then what comes after that?
Well, there would probably be just the final landscaping at that point, because the site plan is approved. Engineering, I don't know what we've got some detention issues there and some road issues.
We don't have detention issues. They gave us a preliminary engineering plan, which we, had comments on. They made some changes, but a lot of it said this will be complete during final engineering. So they're eventually going to send final engineering
Sure.
plans, detention calculations, storm sewer sizing.
So when does that happen? After the annexation agreement or before?
Yes,
After
yes,
the
it would be
annexation
after the
agreement.
It will be something that I have to, make a call for,
Uh-huh,
and, I'm just waiting for this to happen before I.
okay.
The annexation agreement itself calls for all those things to be done and done
Right.
correctly.
Okay.
So it's not like,
Right.
My team is ready,
Yeah.
basically my engineers and my architects are ready. It would take about, maybe 3 to 4 weeks to get me the first set of drawings,
So-
for the submittal, so.
So once we have the annexation agreement in place, and then the final engineering will still come before us in the landscape plan, or we'll get approved. It's not be a look at it,
Yeah.
and we get approved, right?
primarily Troy will have to, okay it,
Yeah,
and make sure that
okay,
the detention's proper and,
okay.
our street or road improvements. Call it a road or a street? It's a road. 88th Avenue.
Do we vote on anything in July?
July would be the goal is the first meeting in July to hold the public hearing and then adopt, if the public, after the public hearing, then the board would have an opportunity to vote on adopting the annexation agreement.
And then, how many board members have to be here for that?
That's why I would think we need at least a quorum. There's no supermajority attached to that, is there, or is there?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So the first meeting in July, I've only heard from one trustee who's not going to be present. So, we have 5 trustees that are committed to being present at that meeting. I mean, if for some reason we ever run into a quorum issue on any meeting, then we have to reschedule, but as long as.
We want as many.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We want everybody here if they can be here. If you can't, you can't. We want everybody here.
I was just wondering about that supermajority.
Yeah, right.
So conditions that, just to kind of touch on the additional conditions for, from the Plan Commission to you, final landscape plans must be submitted to Planning and Zoning Commission for recommendation for approval with a number of plants that will be shown on the final plan. That was the only condition they attached their approval
Were there findings of fact? I'm
to the
sorry.
concept plan and the landscape plan.
Were there findings of fact?
Not for
Not
this,
for this,
no.
okay. I didn't see any, that's what I was asking.
So they just say the number of plants, but then they want the number and types of,
Yeah.
right?
So I think the drawing has
Yeah.
types of map,
Yeah,
but because the final is not done, you
Yeah.
cannot, say this many of the trees or this many of the shrubs or bushes or whatever.
okay.
So
It would be
that's
a detailed,
Yeah, he
a
put down
detailed
the
landscape
deviation
plan.
Yeah.
of the street to be determined, so that's why we don't have those counts, right?
We like type and size.
Yes, yeah, caliper size and everything.
Good.
Mr. Patel, you reduced the diesel pumps from 12 to 10. Did that adversely, or how significantly did that affect your economics?
Not really.
No?
Because
Okay.
normally the 12 pumps are, there will be a very few occasions that all the 12 pump will be pumping.
Okay.
A lot of time the truckers will park and come because it's closer to the
Mhm.
building. So I don't think it would have any
Okay.
negative impact on the projections.
And same with reducing the number of overnight parking spaces. You were only going to 50% capacity.
Yeah, I just, when I did the budget, we only did 50%, so even though the parking got reduced by 60, we still have 160 parking, so,
Okay.
it could be potentially higher, but at least, we are, the projection would be there.
And essentially, you took those out because of the residents' concerns.
Yeah.
I have a question, it might be a little off topic, but how do you think this new fuel tax is going to impact your business, volume-wise?
I think, it's everywhere, it's not only one town.
Well, it's not in Indiana, I guess that's my important question.
And it's only going on the gasoline, not on the diesel.
Okay.
So it's only gasoline, like right now it's 19 cents, so they're adding another 19, I believe. So they're doubling the gasoline tax, and it's all the small cars and the small, the amount, overall projection, I think the diesel is more. But it's going to happen everywhere. The municipality had some tax and they increase it, and we have another municipality, north or south or east or west to you, which doesn't have those tax, and if they have some impact, sometimes they have 8, 9 cents, 10 cents local fuel tax on top of the state. That would have bigger impact. But this is, it's blanket.
You don't think it's going to impact you?
I don't think so. I mean, it's overnight, so people would be scared, the July 1st, seeing the gas price going up by
Right.
19 cents. They're also doing with the cigarettes, the cigarettes is going up by $10 a carton, so it's like $1 per pack overnight. Same thing with, the gas. So I guess, it's going to be some negative impact, I think, but it's really everywhere, it's not only.
The diesel though is your big.
The diesel is not, yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, where's the ordinance at?
No
This is the ordinance.
It can be just a motion to approve, subject to the approval of the
Landscape plan.
and
Final
landscape and annexation agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee March, seconded by trustee Jones.
Oh, okay, that's right. I just didn't know.
March.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. All right. Item G, approval to release the 5% retainage amount, $2,529.18 for the 2018 sidewalk project to J.J. Newell Concrete Contractors Incorporated.
This is for the 2018 sidewalk program. Every year, usually the village holds 5% to, through the winter to make sure there's no big issues in the landscaping takes. And I talked to Bob and he told me that it's okay to go ahead and release it. And everything was good.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? If not, a motion to approve the release of the 5% rate retainage amount, $2,529.18 to J.J. Newell.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion by trustee Parker, seconded by trustee Marevka.
Parker.
Yes.
Marevka.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
March.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Questions of the press? Correspondence, communications, petitions. Chamber of Commerce block party this weekend,
This
correct?
weekend, Friday, Saturday?
And garage sales, Friday, Saturday. So that's, hopefully the weather is good. Ask the residents, please do not blow your grass out into the street. That tends to create issues when it rains and clogs drainage and gets our street sweeper dirty. So, please don't do that. Brush pickup continuing on the regular schedule. That's about all I have. Yes, Dr. March.
I don't know if it came up last meeting, but silk fences, did you bring that up at all, Amy? I talked about the silk
I put
fence.
that on the building committee agenda,
Okay.
and so we reviewed that at the building committee and along with Tom Banky, the building inspector. So we're gonna try to incorporate some of that into the ordinance in some form or fashion.
Anything else from the board? And if not, a motion to adjourn. Motion. Second.
Second.
Motion by trustee Jones, seconded by trustee Ham.
Mr. Jones?
Trustee
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. Ham?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Bowden?
Yes.
March?
Yes.
And Murray?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.